Hi everyone, I thought I would show you this little Ned sculpture that I made. I decided to make him look like a statue because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like an entire crypt for Ned. But so far I've just made the statue for it. I'm going to make like a whole diorama of this, but I'll show you that in later videos. So first of all I started with the head and used some polymer clay. Just sculpt the very basic shape that Ned's head is. Ned is Ned Ferratu, my little original character, and for the sculpture I did like a cross between Ned Ferratu and Nosferatu, so he's kind of got elements of both. So he's more Ned than Nosferatu, but I've done like the big ears and the two big middle teeth like you would get in Nosferatu. So basically it's a vampire statue that I'm making out of clay here. So I started off with just a couple of basic eye sockets and a basic nose, just keeping it nice and simple to start off with. And then just once I've got the basic nose shape, I add the nostrils, and then I'm keeping his face quite skinny, quite gaunt, because obviously he's like a 500-year-old vampire, so he's a bit skinny. And then what I'm doing here now is making some eyes to go in. And I always draw him with one eye bigger than the other, so I've done that for the sculpture as well, even though it's not as obvious on the sculpture. And then I made these little eyelids to go over the top. So what I do is I take a little circle of clay, flatten it out, and create the two eyelids that way, because I like him to have sort of slightly droopy eyelids. It adds a bit of expression to his face and also makes him look like he's very tired. I mean, he's been going around for 500 years. He's a bit bored now. Just adds a little bit to his personality. And then I do the same for his teeth. I just make a little flat circle of clay and then cut it until it looks like two little pointy teeth. Just keeping it nice and simple. And what I do is I just create an area in the mouth where I can get those to fit. And then just press them down to stick them into place. With this Sculpey clay, you just bake it in the oven for half an hour at 130 degrees Celsius after you finish sculpting. So what I like about this stuff is the fact it stays soft until I've finished with it, and it holds detail very well, so you can get a lot more detail in this stuff, like the little lines and wrinkles that I add. It holds the shape of the ears very well. I'm not very good at sculpting ears, but for these basic little ears I've made, it did hold the shape of them really well, even though the pieces are so small. So as you can see, I wanted him to have big, almost bat-like ears. And just made them nice and pointy at the top. And it's just a case of making sure that you blend those edges in to make sure it's stuck down well, so that the ears stay in place. If they do come off while baking, which doesn't normally happen, you can just pop them back on with a bit of super glue, which is also the advantage as well. But I tend to find, I think I've only ever had one sculpture where something fell off, and that was like a nose where like I'd just done like a little button nose on top and I hadn't really blended the edges in. I find with this stuff it tends to stick pretty well, especially if you use that bake and bond stuff. So here's Ned's little face, his little head. And then I added some pupils for his eyes, because originally this was going to be a sculpture of Ned, but then I changed my mind and decided to make him the statue instead. I'll either build another Ned or I'll just have him, I don't know, I'll have him sleeping or something in his crypt. I haven't decided yet. If I do change my mind, I can just put a touch of paint on his face to make him more of his usual colour, and then have him standing there instead of the statue. I'll decide later on when I make the diorama to go with it. And then I added his little skinny eyebrows. He's always got like raised eyebrows as if he's sort of half in shock, half surprised. These were quite fiddly because of how thin the little snakes of clay were, and the one didn't really work out very well because it did kind of blend in afterwards, but never mind. And then I took a little bamboo skewer and placed that through the head. This just makes it easier to attach the head to the body, because I'm going to keep his body very thin and skinny, because he's very sort of gaunt, very thin, very sort of almost wiry. Yeah, he's not a big bulky dude. Ned, he's quite a skinny little dude. And then I just added a very basic neck shape. This will all get covered up in his suit and his cloak anyway, so I didn't need to worry about particularly sculpting details into his neck or anything, because that was never going to stay on show. And then for the body, to bulk out the size of the body, first of all, what I decided to do was to wrap some foil around that bamboo skewer, because I wanted to keep his body thin, but obviously I didn't want it that thin. I needed to add a little bit of bulk. I didn't want to just use like a solid chunk of clay. I find that uses up a lot of clay, and also can be a bit of a pain getting it to stay in place, whereas I find it sticks to the foil a lot better. So I wrapped some foil around the skewer until I got the shape of body that I wanted for Ned. And as you can see, I just did a very basic, simple little suit and added a big collar around it. I haven't added his cloak yet, actually. I'll probably do that later on. I haven't decided how I'm going to make his cloak yet, so that's why I've left it out. So it's just the suit and then like the collar of his cloak so far. But I've left space at the back so I can add that on later. And then to give him that sort of statue type look for the crypt that I'm making, first of all what I did was I started off by painting him black. And then what I did was, after I painted him in black, I then wiped off some of the paint with a paper towel. I like this sort of worn, sort of old, you know, being worn away type of look. I didn't do him a particular stone colour or anything. I wanted him to look like it used to be a black statue where the paint's been coming off, it's starting to fade, and it'll have like moss and cobwebs and stuff on it when I have finished. So this is him for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.